Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm continuing the process of turning my Animal Crossing villagers from New Horizons into human versions of themselves, and sharing the process of how I made each of their artworks. If you missed last week's video, there will be a link in the iCard above, and I'll also have a playlist on the end screen of this video so you can check out the other characters I made. So next up on the list is Tutu. Tutu is one of my Peppy villagers and was actually the second character I met when visiting another island. After talking with her for a bit and hearing that she has dreams of being a singer, I kind of figured out what type of character she would be. Just very outgoing, sociable, and energetic, so I had a few traits and ideas to incorporate into her design. And to be honest, I kind of hit a roadblock when it came to her drawing, which is why this video is a few days late, but we'll talk more about that later. Within the game, Tutu is a polar bear with pretty simple features and clothes. In my opinion, the most standout feature is her signature heart sweater, but I couldn't overlook her side-swept bangs and the permanent blush she has on her face as well. I like to stay true to the original design, but just add my own flair to it. As for my sketches and ideas, Tutu has had the most changes in development, I guess you could say. Her initial sketch actually made her look like she was 5 years old, and when I redrew her again, I felt like it didn't look any better. I left it alone and worked on the characters before her, and eventually came back and tried again with this sketch. I dabbled with shorter hair and tried to envision what clothes she might wear, but in the end, I felt that the outfit was a little too businessy looking for her. The next few sketches were a step closer. I wanted her to have an energetic or playful kind of pose, so I thought about having her make a heart shape with her hands, like I'm sure she would do on stage to tell her fans that she loves them. I also gave her a ponytail with a bow that was supposed to be blue to represent her ears, which I wasn't too crazy about. In my mind, it felt like it was too simple, and it also reminded me a lot of Fuchsia's hairstyle in a way. The last 2 pages of sketches were really just throwing more ideas out, trying to come up with a pose and figure out what kind of body type she might have. I felt stuck, and unlike the other characters where I had an idea immediately, she hadn't sparked any sort of standout ideas. This is where I kind of procrastinated and was trying to find inspiration. It wasn't until I started sketching digitally that I actually had a breakthrough. I don't think there's any specific reason why sketching digitally worked for me. I think it was more about feeling stuck and forcing myself through it to sort of sit down and, find ideas that might work. So my first sketch was, well, it's there, and you can judge it for yourself. I did, however, like the side ponytails. They actually reminded me a lot of Margot Robbie's Harley Quinn, so I found some reference to maybe use that hairstyle and just have them dip-dyed blue to match Tutu's ears. I wasn't too sure about it, so I ended up looking on Pinterest at cosplay wigs and found a few I thought might work. I think at this point I wanted to sort out the pose, and Tutu's pose kinda came from a strange string of thoughts. Within the game, you can get your character's posters, and for her specifically, she's dressed as a cheerleader. And when I saw that, I thought of Taylor Swift from her Shake It Off video, and it just kinda clicked from there, because Taylor has the same side-swept bangs like Tutu does, and when I looked on Pinterest, I found this reference picture of Taylor wearing a pink outfit and sort of giving off a sassy and kind of pop star-like pose. So I got my body chan model and tried to get it as close to the picture as I could. With the pose figured out, I went back to the face and tried other things. I gave her small strands of hair that reminded me of Misa from Death Note, to mid-length hair which I considered putting ribbons on each side like Haruka from Idolmaster. Eventually, I came back to the ponytail idea and wanted it to be curled. I tweaked the pose a bit to make it look like she had just twirled around, keeping in mind that the skirt and hair would be flowing in certain directions. After what felt like forever, I had a good base sketch to work off of. I didn't record the cleanup and refinement of the sketch, so let's just go ahead and jump right into the line art. During the refining stage, I did add a best friend necklace that you can see twirling around her neck. She's wearing one half, and another character who hasn't shown up yet is wearing the other half. They're both Peppy villagers, and there's actually a hint on the chalkboard behind her, so let me know if you guys can guess who it is. You will see me adjust both her arms during this process as well. The one on the right seemed a bit too large, while the one on the left looked like it curved in an unnatural way. This just goes to show that even with a refined sketch, you may not catch any mistakes until you start lining, but you can always just adjust as you go like I did. I actually surprised myself when it came to drawing her skirt. I didn't really need a reference for it, but I think maybe what happened is all those years of drawing anime in high school really came through. The crazy amount of time spent just drawing pretty girls with skirts is paying off right now, and let me tell you, I'm pretty sure my high school self would be proud. For her shoes, I tried to make them look like Converse wedges, but maybe it's the perspective. Looking at them now, the shoes just kind of look like normal Converse, but I just wanted to let you guys know what I was going for. And here I start on the background. Now if anyone watching is new to this series, then let me explain that yes, I am in fact tracing the background. My focus is more on the character than the background, and even though I would have liked to draw it from scratch, this is just how it started back with Dom's drawing, and I wanted to keep them consistent. Plus I think I've been learning a lot about perspective and just backgrounds in general just from tracing. I know that tracing has a lot of negative stigma attached to it, but I do think that sometimes you can learn from it as well. So as you might have guessed, I just take a snapshot in-game of Tutu's house, which I've decorated to match her style, and then move some of the furniture around to bring it closer into frame. From there, I just draw on top of it. One benefit to tracing too is that I can change what the chalkboard says and looks like. You'll see that eventually when I start to color. After the line art is done, I do the flag colors for everything and begin shading. Typically I'll start with the character, and using a combination of a hard brush for bolder shadows and a soft brush for blending, I'll start coloring. I use multiple layers for each style of shading as well, hard shadows on one layer and softer shadows on another. If you guys would like to learn more about how I shade, then go watch Fuchsia's video. I do try to give her some subtle blush to mirror the game model and make it look like she has some makeup on. I remembered how difficult it was to make the fabric look like it was flowing, but I think I've really leveled up in experience because it didn't take any time at all. I do give the sweater a texture to help it make it feel more like a sweater, and it helps separate the pieces of clothing better. For her shoes, I tried to make them look like they were sparkly and reflective, but was having trouble getting that look. So I just stuck with basic shading, but I did go back and give the shoe a leaf logo instead of the standard Converse logo. I then move on to the background and start shading the hedges. It did give me a bit of trouble, mostly because I think I gave them too much texture at first, but I do go back and tone it down after my first initial pass. I also decided to give the top part a highlight color, which I think makes them pop even more. I really loved how it looked, and I'm pretty sure I'm going to be doing this for my other drawings as well. Then I moved on to the chalkboard, which was actually kind of hard to figure out what to write on it. But I figured Tutu might just be hyper-focused on becoming a star, that she would have this checklist on how she was going to go about it. I did try to add a chalky type of texture to it as well to make it look like it had been used. Afterwards, I shade the frame of the chalkboard itself and move on to the other pieces. These are part of the rattan series in the game, so I need to give them that texture to help convey that. It was a tedious process, but I think it was well worth it. Once that was done, I can shade them normally and move on to the plant too. From there, I shade the house. Nothing too crazy here, except instead of doing solid shadows like the other drawings I did, I add some softer ones to help give the house more form. I think it looks good in my opinion, and I'll probably be doing this as well in future drawings too. I ended up shifting some of the colors on the door to match the house in game and give the wood part some texture. Adding texture here and there can help make your drawing look less flat and add some visual interest. I then start to add rough shapes to the street path, which I'll refine later, and then add some vertical lines to help make the wood paneling for the wood path in front of her house. This is always my least favorite part since it takes forever, but I think the results look great. When that's done, I'll add the shading to the back, and then duplicating the color layer for the furniture, I'll fill it in with my shadow color and then transform and warp it to make cast shadows on the floor. Jumping back to the stone, I go and refine that a bit and then give Tutu her own cast shadow, making sure not to make it too harsh. The finishing touches are to add the speech bubble with her signature catchphrase Twinkles. It did take me a minute to figure out what I wanted her to say, but of course it wouldn't be Tutu if she didn't mention wanting to be a star. All that's left to do is sign it, and we can call it done. Even though this drawing gave me some trouble and I ended up having to push the video back because of it, I do really love how it came out. Maybe it's just me, but I do feel like this is the best one yet. I've taken what I've learned from each character and applied it to the next, and honestly, I can't wait to see them all together once this is done. If you guys would like to see the full version of this artwork, there will be a link below to my DeviantArt page where you can check it out. Anyway, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys! Thank you so much for watching. I post new art videos every other Wednesday, so consider subscribing to the channel by clicking my logo on the screen or the subscribe button down below. If you'd like to further support this channel and me, you can buy me a Ko-fi in the link below, and anyone who donates gets a shout out at the end of my videos. Thanks, guys!